from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up today on AgDay, immigration overhaul takes center stage as new guest worker legislation is waiting in the wings in Washington. And there's a new problem to solve in dairy country.
I'm Michelle Rook. Midwest dairy states continue to try to attract new dairy processing plants. I'll have this story coming up.
Plus, as the stock market barrels down the tracks, is it running out of steam?
Obviously, everybody wants to call top, somebody will get it right.
That's analysis. And as one avid cyclist takes to the road, his leisurely ride now turning into work to rid roadways of mounds of metal.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Tyne Morgan. Clinton Griffiths is on assignment. The Trump administration issuing the stiffest immigration reform ever offered by an administration. And now ag groups are assessing the 70-point plan to determine what it ultimately means for an industry already feeling pain from not enough farm workers. The Trump administration submitting the 70-point immigration enforcement plan to Congress Sunday evening. It includes a massive overhaul in order to eliminate any loopholes within the current law. Now, the president's plan calls for a border wall, more deportation agents, a crackdown on sanctuary cities, and stricter limits to chain immigration. It also gives federal agents more leeway to deny illegal immigrants at the border and arrest illegal immigrants already in the U.S. Seeing the lack of ag workers as a pain point, a new Agricultural Guest Worker Act introduced in Washington last week would replace the current H-2A program. Now, it would create a guest worker program and allow up to an additional 500,000 non-residents to work on American farms and ranches year-round. The new work visas would be valid for 3 years. Introduced by Virginia Republican Congressman Bob Goodlatte, he hoped to get it passed out of the Judiciary Committee last week, but the act was pulled back after Goodlatte discovered he didn't have enough votes to get it passed. The Ag Act also includes a way to use the program to hire ag processors and custom operators, including jobs like trucking manure for dairy farms. Well, whether it's lack of labor or the cost of doing business, some dairies are searching for a new home. States like South Dakota not only welcoming those dairies with open arms, but working diligently the past 2 years on recruiting those dairies to their home turf. The relocation efforts are so successful that it spurred a new problem, a milk surplus. And as Michelle Rook tells us, state dairy leaders now working during World Dairy Expo to find that milk a home.
Midwest dairy states are facing a processing deficit and are here at the World Dairy Expo trying to recruit new dairy processing plants. After years of having a milk deficit in South Dakota, the state is facing a surplus.
Fewer cows are making more milk, and we've added enough cows in the state of South Dakota. We've filled our dairy processing plants today.
So World Dairy Expo was another recruitment trip for the state.
What we're trying to do now is find alternative methods of processors coming into the state of South Dakota.
Meanwhile, neighboring Nebraska is facing an even bigger milk surplus.
We're in a situation where right now we have about 2/3 of the milk that is produced in Nebraska actually leaves the state for processing in other places.
So the newly formed Grow Nebraska Coalition was also at Expo promoting economic incentive packages and willing sites in the I-80 corridor.
We have a lot of good productive land along Interstate 80 and a lot of good areas for dairies to grow and to develop. So that's primarily where the communities that got involved with this are located.
Beyond finding the right site, the biggest challenge is the high cost to build.
It is very expensive. I mean, when you're talking $200 million for a plant or higher, it takes time.
In the meantime, there are existing processors expanding within the region.
We're finally in the process of growing our plant in Sanborn, Iowa, more than doubling the capacity there to make room for more milk.
And he says that's far less costly than building new.
We can maybe expand Sanborn for $20 million or maybe less.
Producers admit processing expansion can be a bit of a chicken and egg proposition.
They need the milk and they need to be able to market the finished product. So there's a lot of moving pieces.
However, he says it's necessary for the future of the entire dairy industry. In Madison, Wisconsin, I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
Thanks, Michelle. Both Nebraska Governor Pete Ricketts and South Dakota Governor Dennis Dugard have been very supportive of the recruitment efforts. In fact, Dugard has made trips to Fair Oaks Farms and the Fair Life plant in Coopersville, Michigan. Well, as the Trump administration moves towards reworking current trade deals, U.S. beef exports remain on an impressive pace. And despite U.S. withdrawing from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the #1 buyer of U.S. beef continues to be Japan. U.S. Meat Export Federation says August beef exports were 5% higher than a year ago and the largest export numbers so far this year. Now export value reaching the second highest on record at $679.1 million. That's a 20% jump from last year. That sharp jump can be attributed to Japan, where exports shot up 22% from year-ago levels, hitting the largest since what the Federation calls the post-BSE era. Export values to Japan jumped 35% and broke the $200 million mark for the first time in 21 years. Now, it's interesting to note that August was the first month that Japan's tariff on U.S. beef was in effect, up to 50% from the previous 38%. And now moving to pork, USMEF says while pork exports came in 9% below last year's record pace, the value of those exports still on the rise, up 11% from last year. California's famed wine country is under attack from devastating wildfires, accelerated by powerful winds. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in Napa, Sonoma, and Yuma counties as officials estimated the fire had wiped out over 1,500 homes and commercial buildings. Mandatory evacuations were ordered in the wine country north of San Francisco Bay and elsewhere after blazes broke out late Sunday, sending many into a middle-of-the-night scramble to get out. Well, from sunshine to the first sighting of snow, Cindy Clausen is in for Mike Hoffman this week and has this morning's crop comments. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Tyne. Our viewers in the panhandle of Nebraska woke up to a different view to kick off the week, a blanket of snow. Maryland says they only raise wheat, so it's not halting harvest for them, but they are thankful for the moisture for the new crop. And soybean harvest is just getting underway in Wisconsin. Last week, it was 16% completed. The updated crop progress report comes out this afternoon. Now, this shot was taken in scenic Door County. That's the thumb that sticks out from Wisconsin. Farmer Robbie Schaaf says yields are okay on this sandy loam soil. There aren't many row crops in this part of the state, but there are plenty of apples and cherries. Yum. Well, now here are a look at some hometown temps.
Ever wake up wondering what does today's weather have in store? Well, with weather updates, it delivers the local forecast right to your cell phone each morning to make preparing for the day easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
Still to come, as the stock market continues on its impressive run, is it running out of steam? That's agribusiness. Plus, he travels thousands of miles a year on his bike and got tired of seeing the trash along the road. So he's doing something about it. Details as we head in the country. In agribusiness, it was a mixed day at the CME to kick off the week. Let's find out why as we head to the floor of the CME to check in with Jack Scoville.
It was Columbus Day here, and the banks were closed, and that took some of the interest out of the market. But really, the big thing is that we're focusing this market on the price action, on what's going to happen on Thursday. We're going to have the monthly supply-demand reports and also the monthly production reports. And expecting USDA to show a pretty big production. The corn and the soybeans do seem to be out there. The corn harvest has been a lot slower really to get underway, but the soybean harvest has been very strong. And the yield estimates have been coming in higher than producer expectations. Below last year, but still higher than producer expectations. The live cattle really has been the strength of the complex today and continues to react to some buying from the packers that was seen after the close last week. The buying came in at higher prices, and that was supportive to the market and really good news for the producer. Thanks very much. This is Jack Scoville. I'm Vice President of Price Futures Group. Here on the CME Group floor with some comments for the markets.
Here now with Chris Nararian. Chris, looking at the stock market, do you think it's overdone? Do you think that we will, we continue to see record high, record high, record high? Is it going to continue on this impressive pace?
For the foreseeable future, I do see, I don't see anything that's going to trip it up. Obviously, everybody wants to call the top, somebody will get it right. Yeah. But you know, we started off where that was the only asset class we had any yield. Interest rates were really low. Where else are you going to invest your money? And then we started seeing earnings growth through cost cutting, you know, and we saw that on the unemployment rate. And then unemployment reversed itself. People are actually, you know, doing better, spending more money, demanding more goods. Top line revenue is growing. And where we are, you know, if you look at the earnings projections over the next 12 months and project that as a multiple over the stock market value, we're a little bit above average, but nothing that suggests that we're overheating.
But do you think that some of that money within the stock market spills over into the commodity markets? I mean, we've talked about this now since right before the election, as we saw a possibility that we would see an uptick in the stock market. So do you think that's a possibility, and when?
Well, it is a possibility. When, I don't know. I mean, copper just finally caught a bid. You know, they're trading above $3 a pound when I checked it earlier. But, you know, and crude oil is range bound right now. You know, we have a lot of commodity supply. So, you know, demand growth, you know, growing through demand is a long, arduous process. So will it happen over the next few years? Yes. You know, do I expect it to happen tomorrow? No. Anywhere in between is anybody's guess.
So is copper one of those commodities that you keep a close eye on?
I mean, I look at all the commodity markets because, I mean, obviously copper is used in so many different things, whether it's home building, you know, electronics and, you know, and everything else. Same with, you know, gold has an industrial component as well as a cosmetic, oil for, you know, to power these machines, natural gas, you know, even things like ethanol, you know, how much, you know, how much corn do you need? So, you know, we try to keep track of the commodity market as a whole, you know, and as one of the indicators of where the general economy is going to go. And we are seeing some growth, but it's going to take, you know, a long time to do that.
All right, Chris, we appreciate you making the trip here. Stay with us. We have a lot more Ag Day when we come back.
GA Capital provides M&A, capital raising, and general corporate finance advisory services to companies in and around agribusiness. To speak with GA Capital, call Chris at 901-472-1353. Ag Day, brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential. Ag Day weather, brought to you by Kawasaki and the new Mule Pro FXR side-by-side. Ride like a boss with high-end styling and rugged capability.
Welcome back to Ag Day. As I mentioned, Cindy Klasena is joining us this week. Cindy, you know, we talked about wildfires. We really need to see rain in the western half of the country, but it looks like there's a system, but it's parked in the Midwest where we're trying to get harvest.
Exactly, and it looks like it's going to be dumping a decent amount of rain for a lot of folks, so we're going to have a little bit of pause in the harvest in the Corn Belt today. Let's take a look. And you can see we've got that low pressure system parked right over Missouri. That's going to be bringing rain to much of the central and eastern Corn Belt as we head into the next day or so. As we put this into motion, you'll see that low starting to move to the east, that rain moving into Missouri, Iowa, and Illinois, and eventually into parts of Indiana as well. Notice we'll see fairly dry conditions then in much of the plains and into the Rockies, where we have a frontal system that's into southwestern Canada. That will affect parts of the Pacific Northwest as well. In the southeast, we're going to see just a few areas of showers and thunderstorms there. Heading into the overnight hours, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, we are looking for that rain to be pushing into the eastern Corn Belt and then eventually over into the mid-Atlantic states as we see that low pressure system continuing to move east with high pressure starting to dry things out on the back side of that system. Now, as far as rainfall, it's really going to be that system in the nation's midsection that brings us the most precipitation over the next 24 hours. You can see that especially with our model focusing right there in central and southern Illinois. So we'll keep an eye on that as folks are definitely trying to get some harvest done. Snowfall, we're not really expecting to add a whole lot more, at least in the continental United States. We are looking at especially that system in southwestern Canada to bring some more snow there. As we take a look at temperatures, we remain warm still in the eastern United States, but definitely cooling down more so in the plains and the upper Midwest as that front continues to push off to the east. And we see some cooler nights there as well with low temperatures in the 30s and 40s. As we head into tomorrow, we'll see slightly cooler temperatures spreading a little further to the east into the Great Lakes and into the eastern Corn Belt. It remains warm though in the southeast and just a very small part of the southwest. As far as the jet stream, we have that trough you can see there moving through the nation's midsection. It still remains fairly warm. Trough digs into the west. That will sort of flatten out as we get towards the weekend, and then we'll see an actual ridge starting to build in by the time we get into late next weekend and into the early part of next week into the west, bringing some warmer temperatures there. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check out the weather where you live. Hayburn, Idaho, sunny and warmer for you today with a high of 63 degrees. Long Creek, Illinois, look for showers and thunderstorms with a high of 72. Showers and thunderstorms also expected in Scotland Neck, North Carolina.
Still to come, if dairy prices have the chance to rally, one analyst says the time is now. We'll tell you why. And turning frustration into a new life mission as one avid bike rider works to rid roadways of mounds of metal.
The Dairy Report on Ag Day is brought to you by QLF. For 40 years, QLF has been proud to support American farmers that feed the world.
In our dairy report, if there's any hope of higher milk prices, one analyst thinks the market needs to see movement now before it's too late. During World Dairy Expo last week, national reporter Betsy Gibbon talked to Mike North of Commodity Risk Management Group about prices. Now, he thinks milk prices have the potential to move higher short term. The momentum would be driven by holiday demand for cheese.
If there's any hope for a little bit of an uptick in price, generally now is that time. So if buyers come forward, if we see some continuation of this recent uptick in cheese value, if we can break through especially the 180 level in cheese, that gives some optimism for the fall on milk price. However, I would provide some caution to that as we went beyond October, November.
Tune into Ag Day Thursday as Betsy takes a deep dive into price potential in the months ahead. Well, meet a North Dakota biker with a can-do spirit when it comes to roadside trash.
In the Country, brought to you by Kubota's M5 series, bringing new levels of comfort to hard work. Learn more at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Well, we've all heard that one person can make a difference. Cliff Naylor from affiliate KFYR gives us one example of someone who didn't pass by a problem, but instead took it upon himself to provide a solution. And this idealist just happens to be Cliff's brother.
Ken Naylor has ridden the rural roads of Cass and Clay counties since 2002. He logs 5,000 miles a year on this pavement. This year, Ken noticed something different along the route he's traveled thousands of times.
Lots and lots and lots of cans in the ditch.
Most people would just drive by the debris.
I'm not most people.
When something bothers Ken, he comes up with a solution. In his garage, littered with bicycle parts and equipment, he hammered out an answer to the roadside rubbish issue that's become a thorn in his riding routine.
It took a little bit of effort, a little bit of thought, and a little bit of effort, and that's the beauty of it.
Ken collected Tidy Cat kitty litter containers, turned them into recycle bins, and labeled them Operation Tidy Cans.
It's a play on the Tidy Cat bucket. Take the T away, put the N in the place, and I'm trying to keep cans tidy.
Once the bright, colorful canisters are assembled, he attaches them to road signs along his route. 13 Tidy Can crates are strategically placed about 3 miles apart. They serve as collection sites for all the garbage he hand-picks, so he can periodically take the weight of this can crusade off his back.
It's litter. It's ugly. Once somebody throws one in the ditch, it'll be there 20 years from now.
This good deed didn't go unnoticed.
I was hoping to fly under the radar and kind of be anonymous.
Ken didn't notify the county road department about Operation Tidy Cans because he hoped it would be easier to ask for forgiveness rather than permission.
Whenever you attach something to a highway sign, there's paperwork, there's applications, and there's fees.
But once the bright yellow bins were in place, people began contacting the solid waste department about the unusual roadside receptacles.
It's a great idea, and we're all on board, so he didn't need to worry.
Shannon Thompson is the education coordinator for the Clay County Solid Waste Department. She says the $100 permit fee for placing each recycle bin in ditches is being taken care of by the county. The Single Citizen Committee to Keep Clay County Clean has collected more than 85 pounds of aluminum.
Next year, I hope to maybe bring in a couple of other people. Obviously, many hands make light work.
Ken plans to recruit other riders to do some of the light lifting. He would also like motorists to curb the urge to throw garbage out the window. But until that happens, he'll continue to pick up after them. I'm Cliff Naylor, reporting for AgDay.
How cool, and some motivation on this Tuesday. Well, that's all the time we have this morning. We're so glad you tuned in. For all of us at AgDay, I'm Tyne Morgan. Have a great day in farm country.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest lasting heavy duty pickups.